Mason, I know we've had this conversation before, but can you just explain to the people who are watching what it was like finding out that you had type 1 diabetes?
Yeah, of course. It was a shock. Obviously any health diagnosis I think usually comes as a shock. I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about type 1 diabetes beforehand. So I felt like it was something that I did to result in that diagnosis, but that really wasn't the case. It was just autoimmune disorder, and quickly learned, fortunate that I'm able to do everything that I'm able to do while living with type 1 diabetes. So being able to jump right back into things after only a couple days, figuring out how I need to live with it was rewarding.
You're a college baseball player at that time, right? 20 years old, and I imagine you feel invincible. What was your diet like then? What was your diet like then? What's the first thing you had to go ahead and change once you got the diagnosis?
Yeah, I was honestly really just focused on gaining weight at that point, and one of the symptoms is losing weight. So I was eating everything I could find and still losing weight. So being able to figure out why that was happening was kind of rewarding. I think I had a lot of good habits going into it that, once I was diagnosed and able to, start taking insulin and give my body what it needed, I was able to, put all those good habits that I'd already had that didn't really result in much. Mm-hmm. And then they started really paying off. So it was something that really put some wind at my back. I felt like that, I had a lot of good practices already established, and it was just getting everything lined up the way it needed to be, and then quickly starting to see results.
So what's the first change that you had? What's the biggest change you had to make once you found out?
I mean, the easy one's sweets. Ice cream was like my guilty pleasure, but cutting it out. I mean, nowadays, I still have a treat if I want to, but it's almost easier just not to. But for an athlete, that's probably the way you should be eating anyways. So I just kind of focused on high protein and lower carbs. Diabetes is all kind of centered on like the relationship between carbs and insulin. Okay. So whatever carbs I'm eating, I'm taking insulin that matches that. Use a carb counting scale of like 10 carbs to 1 unit of insulin. So once you have a pretty good diet going and a plan, that's the biggest thing is if you have a plan, then things kind of fall into place and it goes a lot easier.
And it's like after games, you're hooked up to something. Can you just tell me what you have to do, what your routine's like before and after a game when you pitch?
Yeah, I normally eat about 2 hours before the game. The short-acting insulin I take a base dose at night, which lasts 24 hours, and then I take insulin every time that I eat. And usually that short-acting insulin lasts about 2 hours. So as long as I eat 2 hours, I try to eat 2 hours before first pitch, but if it's a little bit closer, that's okay since I'm pitching later in the game. I try to just avoid taking anything within 2 hours, any activity, because activity affects your blood sugar too. Exercise usually can bring your sugar levels down. So insulin you get a little more insulin sensitive with activity. So I just try to get that out of the way beforehand. That way I'm in a good place going into the game and I don't really have to worry about any lows.
Wow. So how do you monitor it? And I'm asking you this because one thing I noticed in the clubhouse is I saw like a Dexcom sign or some signage, and my brother-in-law works there, so I'm a little bit familiar with that. What is it that you're hooked up to?
Yeah, I wear, you see it right on my arm, I wear a Dexcom. A Dexcom. It's a continuous glucose monitor, so it pairs with my phone, and then I have a little device that I can use during games too. I usually don't really check it that much, but that kind of comes from taking the insulin early enough that I know where my levels are going to be, and then big moments, kind of the anticipation and intensity of it kind of kicks the sugar levels up, which is kind of unpredictable. Each game's a little different. Kind of think it depends a little bit on the moment, but I'm not really sure. It's kind of just not an imperfect science, so you just plan the best that you can, and then a lot of it's reactionary.
What do you want aspiring athletes to know who may be living with type 1 diabetes about what they can and can't do?
Yeah, I mean, I was 20 years old when I was diagnosed. A lot of younger kids get diagnosed with it, and I remember the first thing that I did, I really didn't have pro aspirations at that point, but I just wanted to be able to still play baseball. So the first thing I did was look up some athletes with type 1 diabetes, and Mark Andrews, the tight end, was one of the ones that came up. But that just goes to show you that people are still able to live and manage it and do the things that they want to do, regardless of the level that you are at. So I just try to be an inspiration to kids that they are still able to play, do the things they want to do. There's just a little bit added planning that needs to go into it, and some of that responsibility falls on parents when the kids are young, but really taking ownership of it, and as long as you know what's going on with yourself, you're able to react and prepare and do everything that you want to do.
I have to ask one WBC question. Now, when you have dreams about the moment when it's going to be like, you're on the mound, you have a chance to go ahead and win it all for Team USA. Are you facing Manny Machado or Tatis?
I don't know if there's a good choice there. Those guys are tough ABs, and I get a front seat to watch them play all season. So hopefully I've gleaned enough information that I can go get one out against them. But we'll see. I'm hopeful, and everybody's out there to win it. So I'm just looking forward to the competition and the experience.